I just had a really profound spiritual experience where as I went into the different chakras, I was transported to being in Egypt. What happens if I get into the sarcophagus? And he goes, you'll die. And this is why I'm here to do this work. I go, thank you. And I step into the sarcophagus and this sphere of light comes through the lid into my chest. My chest arches up and I'm feeling my body in Bali, but I'm in this experience in Egypt. I've lost 10 kilos of weight. Feel amazing. My priorities have shifted significantly as well. I'm even deeper trust in this surrender process on how things are happening for a reason.
Mr. Chris Volpe, welcome back to the podcast, my man. It's been a while.
Thanks, God. Yeah, it has been. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Obviously, we're good friends. I've known you for a long time, and I've been hassling you to come back on the podcast. And thank you for doing so. And it's what I'm enjoying as well, Chris, is that you're a real good benchmark of the work because you to one of our first retreats. You know, then you ended up supporting us for a while, and then you came back as a participant at a later retreat. And I've watched you evolve as well with yourself, your own work and what you're doing. And it's just a joy to see, mate. So
Thanks, mate.
I appreciate it. But for everyone listening, you know, if a stranger stopped you on the street or you're at an intimate dinner party and they said, what do you do for a living right now? What would you answer?
Hey, that's a tough question, that one. I think in my general day-to-day life, I'm CEO of a company that I built with my brother, Vic, and I run the business, the day-to-day operations of the business. We've got a team of about 40. So that's kind of the work that I've built in my creation. And on the side, and I've done support work for yourself, and I like to, just to learn and grow.
Yeah. So a team of 40 people. So it's a big operation, right? Like my brain starts to hurt when I think about having to operate 40 people. You know, we've got a small team of 6 of us, I think. But with that then, and the work you've been doing, does it feel like you've been living a double life, or does your employees and staff and everyone know that you've been leaning into this other aspect of yourself, which is exploring the self as well?
Yeah, mate, like it's sort of, they know that I'm doing the work on myself, and then I come back from big experiences and life seems to have taken a turn, and they go, whoa, there's sometimes a bit of a roller coaster and, of what I'm bringing, but I feel that I live authentically and in my truth. So the team, you know, where the industry that we're in is cabinetry, construction industry. The majority of the team are men, tough blokes, you know, and I come in with, you got to live in flow, trust the process. Like this morning, a few jobs moved out and I'm like, guys, there's a reason, you know, it's meant to be. Like we've just dropped down from budget for the month. January is a hard month. They're like, do we need to figure out? I go, no, trust the process. Something's going to move. And so I feel that, it just weaves into the everyday. And to be honest, my experience of my business and my work is way more enjoyable now. The more I develop myself and evolve myself into, my truth and my authenticity and my heart, and like leading from the heart, it's just a more enjoyable place to be.
Because I want to lean into your experiences on our recent Bali retreat. And then you went off and you did some more traveling. You went through Egypt and how all these things tie together, because it's pretty wild, and I'm excited to share it with people. But just on what you said, and we'll get into that in a moment, but just on what you said, is if you had to quantify remember the day when you came to our retreat, I believe it was in 2019 in winter. So it's been 5 years, and then you've been, there or thereabouts. Obviously we've hung out separately and stuff, but you've been leaning into the work constantly and exploring your own journey and other people's work. How has that impacted your life? How would you quantify that to someone that is always sitting on the fence looking in as opposed to diving in and running with it? Because what I love about you, Chris, you don't mess around, mate. You, you just grab something and you run with it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I think like there's two words that come to mind. It's just game changer. Like, like the way I live now, to quantify that, when I came to that first retreat, I felt disconnected from my feelings. Like I couldn't really experience joy anymore. I couldn't cry. Like I couldn't feel, and it was like, I kind of just felt like I was losing myself. And then to quantify that, there's been that first retreat. I said, like, I had like an upgrade. Like I felt like I was a Windows upgrade. Like I needed a full reboot. To now, it's almost unquantifiable. Like the experiences I'm having, the spiritual experiences, the knowing that there's more to life than what we just see, touch, and feel. The feelings of joy that I experience from day to day, the level of presence. And if I saw if you saw me, a photo of me then to who I am now, it's like, I think most people tell me I look totally different, but my body feels better. I feel lean, fit, healthy. Just on, the wheel, like if I put everything in there, physical, spiritual, relationship, financial, like all of it has just gone expanded out. And I just see that as a continual progression and expansion. This last, and there's like, I'd say too, that there's themes that I'm working through, and kind of they can I might deal with it once, but then it'll come back, but I'm at a deeper level, a deeper layer. So it's not that, that lesson that I got, that's it, I've done and I've learned the lesson. Actually, I'm just going deeper into my heart, deeper into the awareness of who I am and unraveling those layers. So the one thing I'd say is game changer.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd say is all of that.
One thing I want to pick up on there as well before I get into what's been happening for you is that you mentioned about you couldn't feel, right? And that there was no joy in your life and you were like almost disconnected from your own vessel, right? Now, for people listening to this, because we always tend to look externally to then resolve what we can't feel. What would you say the impact is of in your everyday life then of actually, instead of going externally, going internally to those emotions and those feelings and start to unearth what is always wanting to grab your attention in the first place, except we're too busy or we're not shown the way of how to do it?
Yeah. I'd say the sense that I get from it is just like a solid mountain or a rock. Like I feel that my presence in day-to-day life is more just able to weather all of the storms coming in, and the emotional work that it took to bring joy back into my life, like the inner child work that we did on retreat and with Petra, and the other work that I've done outside of that on the inner child, reconnecting with him, finding, healing some of those emotional things that were being blocked or suppressed, has freed up so much energy, like freed up my my joy. It's freed up my feeling body, that part of me that allows me to experience life. Like I think I heard Tony Robbins say once, the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. And it's like my interpretation of that now, having done all this work on myself, is that the emotional work that allows then for me to feel more fully has allowed me to be more expressed in this life. Like I show up at work with more passion, enthusiasm. I can find joy in the day to day. We're making cabinetry. We're sort of like changing people's lives through organization. It doesn't, you can say, well, you're just building boxes, but like you come in and we have fun and like the team are working together. And I think when I was first really digging into this, it was like it felt like a struggle, whereas now it feels more aligned. Yes, shit gets tough. Like there's still real challenges that come up, and then I have to go into that emotional work. But I feel like I've built a process around that supports me on a day to day, and life is just more alive.
Totally. You're Foreman B now, not Foreman A. That's an inside joke from the retreats. But anyway, well, I think about that. So why did you then decide to come to Bali in, well, like I say, 2024 now? I think it was June, was it?
June. Yeah.
June in Bali. We got another Bali retreat coming up in end of April 2025, but that's almost sold out, which is amazing. Yeah. So why did you come to Bali 2024?
So you called me in like, I think it was like February, you checked in with me, and I'd been like the last 2 years or the year and a half leading up to it, I'd really had this, a shake up in business. The market's more challenging. We've got interest rate rises. We've got an industry that's getting shaken up. There's a lot going on. So I was living in Byron Bay, and I kind of had another project going, and I had an operations manager running the business. And all of a sudden I needed to get back to my business to deal with that and make sure it's solid for this kind of challenging market. And I'd been going for like a year. I'd just been working and in the creation, all purpose, my fires lit, but I wasn't having much sleep. I was like, my balance had started to shift, And that's why I think it's really important to continually do the work and to be checking in and creating space for health and wellness and for that growth. I kicked some really massive milestones in the business, and business was cranking by this stage. And you called me and said, hey, we've got a retreat in Bali and that we're going to launch. And I'd never been to Bali, and it's on my bucket list. And I'm like, I got to go. It just was like an instant knowing. It dropped in. I remember the moment I was in the car and you called me and you said Bali, and I just had this like lighting up of my heart, and I was just like, I've got to go to Bali. And it just sort of felt like really good timing because the business stuff was sort of coming to completion. The team was really solid. We had to do a bit of a restructure. The team was feeling really solid. So I felt like it was the perfect timing. And that's like living in flow and live like the guidance is just sort of guiding me. And that it just feels more easeful when I follow that intuition.
And I think you booked in that night, like the same day. I saw payment made, Chris Volpe, like, holy shit, he's not messing around. He's definitely coming. So let's talk us through what was your mindset like then? Because obviously you've supported us at retreats and you've been a participant at this point too, but you knew you had to come to Bali and the retreat. So it might have been even technically a fourth retreat maybe or something.
Yeah. I think as a participant, it was my second proper one. What I really loved about it too was the 5, not like that was a bit longer. Yeah. So I got a bit more immersion. The other ones that I'd done, I must have because it was all through COVID, I think, and Petra needed to zoom in. So I was supporting Petra for a couple of years. 4, 5, maybe something in support. Every time I was in the energy with that collective that you guys bring together and the people choose they come along, there's always something big. Like even though I wasn't a participant, I found it was such a gift to give and to be in support. And I also had moments where I was able to participate, and it was really profound. Like the progress that I could see with regular each year, like working on the inner child stuff and continuing that work was really powerful. My sense for this Bali one coming up to it, and the reason for this knowing and the heart coming up was like, yeah, I'm ready. Business stuff, that mission's kind of completing. I need some balance. What's next? I was starting to feel a little bit disconnected by the end from my feelings again. And I was like, okay, I really want to see what's here, what's next, and what's happening. So then it just felt right. And yeah, let's lead.
Yeah, fair enough then. So when you got to Bali, let's talk through, I guess, the building up to what happened, because I believe it was in the meditation I led on, I don't know, day 2 or day 3.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was day 3. I have all notes and drawings from it. It was like the dropping in, it was just, we kind of get into the group and we start to get to know each other. And I'm starting to notice there's a few people there at the retreat that are bringing stuff up for me. And that's reflecting some of the work that needed to be done and some of the stuff I needed to let go of. And I'm like, everything happens for a reason. This is crazy synchronistic, to the point where I think it was you and Petra go, oh, that person reminds me of someone that was really important to you back in the day, which was my ex-wife. And I had to some processing. There was some general really getting into the energy and starting to see, oh, there's a reason I'm here and there's some work that's happening. And then I'd booked, in the meantime, I'd kind of booked sort of 3 things in a row because I wanted to test my team to see if they were able to really continue the business without me being there all the time. So to have that in support, and wanted to see that what I'd done had worked. And so I'd had the Bali retreat booked, and I'd also had the Egypt retreat book, the Egypt tour. Like it was like a spiritual trip, a bit of a pilgrimage. And that felt really strong. And then I'd also had a trip to Italy where I was going to be doing a retreat at the start, and going to a wedding of my partner's Italian and going to a wedding at the end. And so all these things were kind of booked, but it just felt right, but it was kind of the steps. So in your meditation on, I think it was the 3rd day, it was in the morning one with the chakra meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a really profound spiritual experience where, as I went into the meditation and into the different chakras, I was transported to being in Egypt, and I could see myself walking in a procession.
Yeah. So was that a vision, or did you feel yourself expand and physically be there? Like, how was that?
Yeah. So for me, how it kind of happens is I can, as I talk about it now, I can see the experience. So when I was in it, it's a sense of like, I was going into myself through the guided meditation. And then all of a sudden, it's like, if something expands, it opens up. And then I start to get a sense of visual and knowing, like information. So it's like, it's translating in. I don't really know how the whole process works, but this is where I'm in full trust of and surrender of where life's taking me now. And so somehow I appear and can see, and will transmit to you kind of the visuals of it as like walking in a procession with some people in front and some people behind me, or beings. Like it's sort of like, but I can tell that they're a being, like, it's light. It almost comes through as light. And then we're walking to the Great Pyramid in Giza, and I've never been there at this point. I did ancient Egyptian sort of ancient history in school, and I learned a little bit. And so I'm there walking to this. So you could imagine at this point, I'm going, what's happening here? So what's going on? And so we go into the pyramid and we end up in a chamber or in a room, and there's a sarcophagus, and like, it's hard not to know what there's just a box with a lid. And so oh, we're walking and it feels sacred, like we're walking with a reason and a purpose, and we're there together in support of each other. And there was a lot of love. Like my heart, it pretty much was just way open, and I'm feeling a lot of love. And I get into the room, and the other beings around, one comes forward and says to me, do you want to get into the sarcophagus? And I was like, what happens if I get into the sarcophagus? And he goes, you'll die. And I'm like, okay, this feels a little intense. But I'm up for that. What happens then, once I die? And then the message that I got was, you'll be reborn. I was like, okay. And there's this moment of fear where I'm going, well, is it going to be painful? What happens? But like you said, I lean in. So I was just like, you know what? I'm here. This is why I'm here, to do this work. I'm going to get into the sarcophagus. So I go, thank you. And I step into the sarcophagus. I lay down. They shut the lid, and I get a little bit scared. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And this sphere of light comes through the lid into my chest, and I start to convulse. So I'm my chest arches up, and so I'm feeling my body in Bali, but I'm in this experience in Egypt, and my chest arcs up. I can't breathe, and I'm sucking the air in, and I had to just surrender, because it was like, I'm gone. And so boom, and then it just expands into, I feel like I'm convulsing like this. I've got tears start pouring down my face, and I just let it happen. And then as I surrendered into it, and it basically just went into expanded into blackness and just sort of love. And I was crying significantly, and I was just feeling these beings sort of holding me in support. And that was that day. And so you end the meditation, and I've got snot all down my and I open my eye. You finish off, and I open my eyes, and I look at you. I remember we caught each other's eye, and I just was had my hand on each other. I was like, thank you. Because the death, what had happened, just felt so freeing, so freeing, and all these tears and this emotions just had me in such a state of bliss, that, I just was I just feel so grateful for the experience. So that was that. And then it followed through to the next day, which I can tell you about it.
Yeah, please do. And I think it's important for people as well to understand that, it's like an initiation. What you were able to do in that moment was just truly surrender and let go. And I've been in those circumstances myself in deep meditations, and it can be bloody scary. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
but it's in that trusting and letting go and knowing there's a greater support and an evolution of ourself. That really, that's where the transformation lies. It's in that moment, isn't it? It was right then. And I remember seeing, I remember just laughing to myself, because the state of some of the people when they get up off the floor at the end, it's quite funny after a while. Even though I know you went through such a big emotional thing, I was really happy for you as well, because it's wow, something profound just happened there.
Yeah. And you've seen me. I remember one of the retreats, I'm like this, and you're just receiving stuff from my inner child. So you've seen a lot that I've gone through, and people.
Totally. So what happened the next day?
So that I just went through that whole day then, just in this kind of euphoria of release. And then the next morning, and the sleep at the retreat, so good, deep and visual and stuff. And so I went through this really deep sleep, and I got up the next day feeling ready. I came in, and you did you guided us through another the chakra meditation. And as soon as you start the meditation, boom, I'm back. Wow. I'm in the sarcophagus. And so the lid slides off, and I'm going, this is insane. Like, it's the thing processes happened over the whole day, but I'm here now in the same moment in that time. The lid comes off, and the beings there just like helped me step out of the sarcophagus, and I was reborn, and then boom, I'm in tears, I'm sobbing again, and then my heart just sort of like opened right up, and it felt like then it was complete. We came out of the Great Pyramid, and then that was it. And the meditation finished, and then I'm like, I just had the whole journey through over 2 separate meditations.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And I just, because you mentioned the chakra system a couple of times as well, I'm a huge, huge fan of ultimately using the chakras to dive into do the inner work. Because I've found on my own experiences, and this is for everyone listening, is that as we clear that vessel, think of the chakras, they're like a blueprint for a house almost, and our body, the physical body being the home, but then you've got this blueprint that is sending and receiving information, creating that structure. So I kind of look at these big energy chakra systems. And as we clear that from our this life's traumas, past traumas, and so forth, it really allows us then to start receive and dive into experiences to evolve our soul, our evolution, like we just had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that then allowed me to really, with the last piece of the retreat, close and let go of those things that I could see when I arrived were there to be healed. That person that was reflecting and triggering me for some reason, that it all kind of then was able to close off. So it was like that death initiation whenever it happened in that I can't fully comprehend with my mind. It's like all allowed for this beautiful completion of the retreat. And then after I spent a week in Bali, I had the best time of my life. Like, I had the most amazing flow, holiday, synchronicities happening, so thumbs up to that. Like, Bali was so spot on and fun.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. And the shala we had, like in the rainforest, and we didn't have many mosquitoes either, which was a bonus. And the whole experience was phenomenal. First of all, thank you for sharing all that. I know it's not something you probably talk around the dinner table too often with your workmates, but I appreciate it. So let's fast forward then the experiences, because that's only half of the story, right?
Yeah. So then I was pretty surprised that in Bali I lived an experience that, like, I'd booked Egypt, but I'd kind of lived this experience in Bali. So all of a sudden, sort of this Egyptian piece started to open up more for me, and I went from Bali, came back, business starts, sorted it out, kind of got into the flow. And then I went to Italy first. So I had a month in Italy, and I was meant to go to a tantric retreat where I was doing tantra work with my partner. And we ended up going through this because my sense of it was I had been so opened up to these other realms and other parts of myself that going to Italy then had this sort of pilgrimage almost on its way to Egypt. And what had happened was I lived through this whole month. We ended up having to cancel, not go to the tantric retreat, because my partner's grandma, Nonna, she passed away. And it was literally like she waited for us to arrive in Italy. And then the day before we went into the retreat, she passed away. And so we ended up canceling the retreat, and we just went down south to do family things. And it just started to open up all of this family heritage and stuff and past life. So we ended up we went from Puglia, seeing family, traveling all the way up northern Italy. And we were and the whole time I was having these glimpses of a past life where I was in the Knights Templar, and I was actually Rosanna's protector in that life. And she was in one of the Magdalene sisters, she was in that group, and we're going from place to place having this like we're having our trip and we're seeing family, and then I'd walk into a place and have a vision of, well, we've been here before, and I was protecting you as we went through this village, and we would have experiences where then people that the accommodation we were at would bring up experiences. I had one where we went through a whole forgiveness process through this past life. So we lived that life and this life at the same time, pretty much for the whole life. And the synchronicities that happened by the end of the trip, because it'd take a few hours to tell you the whole story. But by the end of the trip in Italy, we had people coming up to us, just giving us book recommendations for Mary Magdalene. And we were like, how did you know? We've just spent this whole time like in this past life thing. And so we started to journey deeper with that. And we arrive at a place someone recommended us to go. And there was this big sign and it says the passage to Egypt in Italian. And Rosanna goes, here you go. That's your pilgrimage to this next step. And so just that in itself was profound, like having that process complete, and we closed off this past life thing together. I came back to Sydney, did some more business stuff, kind of worked through that, and then went to Egypt. And so there's all the conflict that was coming, like there's conflict over there and stuff happening. And so I had family members telling me not to go, like you could get stuck in Egypt, you may not be able to get back. There's a war that's going to break out. So I had a moment of sort of fear coming up, is like, am I really going to go to Egypt in this conflict? Like I could wait, but man, I just knew I needed to go. It was like that same thing with the Bali experience. And I bumped into someone I knew from Byron Bay, and she said, oh, I just got back from Egypt. She's half Egyptian. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. Go for it. And I was like, that's the sign I needed. I'm going. And that was like 2 days before I left. So then I flew out, arrived in Egypt, and the lady who's running the trip, Marcella, she's from Peru. She's a shaman. So she does like this sort of spiritual work. And the whole journey was kind of mapped as a bit of a pilgrimage. And so we arrive on day one. I don't know what to expect, what we're going to be doing. And I arrive at the hotel and she goes, okay, so you sleep, you get up at 3 a.m. and we're going to the Great Pyramid in Giza. And I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, we've got a private tour of the pyramid and we're going and we're going to be there for 5 a.m. And I'm like, well, because I'm starting to think, what's happening here? Like, I didn't even know going to go to the pyramid or how the itinerary looked and when we were going to go. And so I get up the next morning, we're in our van, we get there, we arrive, there's no one else. It's before opening hours. And we had a private tour organized with a guard and one of the people who managed the site. And so we went in and it was like a procession, and I'm on this journey into the pyramid and we climb up through, and I started to feel the stuff that came up for me in Bali. Started to have some like a little bit of panic or fear coming up as I'm climbing into the pyramid, because I'm going, is this going to be what I've just lived through in Bali? Am I going to die in here? Like what's happening? At the same time, the guard's got a machine gun, and I'm like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the end, And so we climb up, we make our way in, and the pyramid itself, for those who've never been, and it was my first experience, the construction of that thing is unbelievable. Like the pieces of granite that have been cut precisely in perfect lines and joined together. And in a king's chamber, which is what it was called when we got in there, was this big room with these massive pieces of granite that come from Aswan. Perfect, like joins like we do in our cabinetry to the millimeter, but stone the size of a truck, like a semi-truck. And I'm going, how does they get? You tell me that you got slaves putting this thing together. How did they lift that piece back then, to thousands of years ago, like 5,000 years ago, into place? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like how that construction story comes about. And so I'm in there just blown away by just the place itself and the experience. And we get in there, and then the guy just says, okay, you can do what you need, meditate, spend your time in here. It's just a room, like it's just a square box room. And then I see the sarcophagus. And so I walk in, I'm like, there's a sarcophagus there. And so we start a meditation process, and we end up, each of us going for a ceremony where we lay in the sarcophagus. And I literally lived the experience that I had in Bali. When I laid in it, I didn't put a lid on top. It wasn't the exact same in terms of how that happened, but from an energetic level and a spiritual level, the same thing was happening. I had my chest convulse. I had releases happening. I could feel the energy in the pyramid just coming into my body, and this unbelievable level of like release and energy, and not fully comprehending. My mind, I don't think can keep up with the level of stuff that's going on, but the experience was profound emotionally and energetically. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how Egypt started.
How it started. What do you think, like when you look back and reflect on that now, months later, what are the lessons from it? What do you feel has come from that for you moving forward?
So much has transformed in me since that experience. Like coming back, there was many profound moments on that Egypt trip, and in completion of that trip, I came down with like a fever, and I felt a release, like my body was releasing. I got back to Australia, and I was in this releasing process, and then my diet shifted. I've lost 10 kilos of weight. I feel amazing, like absolutely amazing. And my priorities have shifted significantly as well. Like, so on a physical level, I'm here running my business, doing the things, but there's so much more space and presence like around it. But as a takeaway, I feel that I've got so even deeper trust in this surrender process, on how things are happening for a reason, how I was safe. I went to Egypt and it was all safe, and the things that happened as I lent in more and more just had profoundly positive experiences and growth. And the level of trust that I've got in like my commitment to that in my life and my journey has just like jumped up a whole other level. And I feel more at peace as well, like just so much peace from it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And the only way you're going to get there is by actually leaning in and learning what it is like to trust, and trust in that surrender, as you said. And until we start to do it and explore the self and really unearth what is within us and what wants to present itself, and we always get what we need, not what we want. We always get more than we think we can handle, but we can actually handle it. So we're always stretched at the same time, but it's never stretched beyond the point, and it's through those actions and that refining, isn't it? It's like that expansion, contraction, and we propel ourselves forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. No,
So
it's beautiful. Last question for you then, like reflecting back now, what would you then, if people, because some of the things you shared then could feel quite scary. I remember leaning into this for the first time thinking I was really scared. And the thought of letting go, or like my mind would conjure up, if I'm going to die, are these things going to
yeah,
really happen? And, what
yeah,
happens if I connect with a soul on the other side? Are they going to, like there's so much your mind can conjure in terms of fear. That's what I found for myself
yeah,
when
yeah,
I knew nothing and leaning in,
yeah,
right? But so
yeah,
how would you share then from all your experience to someone that might feel really disconnected, really stuck, really emotionless? There's a magnetism to leaning into this work, but are not willing to take the step or not yet. Like, I don't know, talk to me
yeah.
about that.
Like, I imagine it's sort of like a ladder, and I'm like climbing up the ladder, like it's sort of one step at a time. And the when I've been doing this work for a good chunk of my life. I like always into personal development. First, it started very physical, just getting better and doing, setting goals and all that, very like primarily focused on my physical reality. And then now it's expanded so much more into spirituality and who I like am deeply in the emotional work. Um, I would say just taking that first step, like you said, you give them what you're kind of ready for or capable to do. I don't think I could have lent in and had that full experience when I first started the work. And I remember when I went to your retreat, I was like, what are these? Like, I didn't know you at the time. I was like, what are these guys on about? Are they trying to manipulate me or something? Like the I'm going, what am I doing here? I set goals, I got my work, but I just took the step and I leaned in. I realized like how profound and beautiful it is when you can connect with people, their hearts truly open and there's honesty in the community. It's like, I took that one step and then I built a bit more trust. And then it's like, I took another step and I built a bit more trust, and building muscles through, ice bath, sauna, different experiences that are starting to bring more body focus, diet, like little things. And then just building up to then the point where it started to have like deep, profound spiritual experiences. And, it's not necessarily linear because I did have some amazing spiritual openers, and that helped guide me to you guys and the other work that I'm doing. And I chatted a bit about that in the first podcast we did together when I was living at Possum Creek and the synchronicities that happen. But it's like, it's just the one step at a time, just climbing up that ladder and just leaning in when it feels right, when the heart feels good about it.
What do you think this would do to the people in general or the population of the world if this was part of a curriculum?
Oh, game changer. It should be. Like, it's crazy that it's not, like there's, this is a way of being that we had more naturally, uh, built for. I believe that this is who we were, have been, are, in many layers on many timelines. But it's like you're pulling, what I love about you guys is you bring the science in and there's that part of it. But really, this is ancient stuff, breath, shamans, like sound, all of that it comes into what's been there. And when I was in Egypt, a big part of my initiation through that whole process was starting to learn about 5,000 years ago, what these guys were doing and how they were living, came through more and more. And it's like, whoa, the stuff that we're doing, in the Live and Flow retreat, the work I'm doing with myself, these different people that are working with spiritual realms, sound, frequency, vibration, body, DNA, like all of this stuff is actually technology or understandings that have been there. I just think it's like it needs to be a part of the way, the curriculum, how we live. And I think it's becoming more and more. It feels like now is a really good turning point with that. With technology exploding, like ways of doing things are going to change significantly. So like bringing this back into us, into community, into society would be hugely powerful. And for the new generations that are coming,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I look at my dad, man, my dad, he has cancer and he's in remission. So he's done all the chemo and all that stuff, and amazing, strong man. But, I believe that that's held on emotional trauma from his life and the build up. And he has, I haven't seen him do the work. So I imagine that's cancer is a culmination of that. And, peace comes from letting go. And now as he's coming to the end, he's more gentle at letting go of things. So I think for sure, for wellness, for emotional happiness, all of that, if we do this work, we're breaking the cycle. We're cycle breakers and we're changing that. And it's like my relationship, my partner, Rosanna, I feel that our relationship is more joyful because I've been able to do this self-work and we're doing the work together as well in the relationship, and we're maturing. And then the first thing is the individual, then you got the couple, then you got collective. Like if we can't hold our relationships, how do we hold a community orientated, more supportive environment, So man, it's a gateway to all of this,
Yeah, no, phenomenal answer. Absolutely. We can't separate any of it, even as an individual when it comes to health. Like I'm so passionate about it. You have to look at not only the physical aspects of the things we spoke about, Dad, but you have to look at the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual aspects of it as well. The environment, the external inputs that are happening. It's not just any one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Last question for you, mate, before we wrap this up is, actually, I got two. First thing is there anything else you'd like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Just do it. Take a step, see how it feels. If it feels good, continue. And yeah, I think that's what I just leave is like, for me, it was just one step at a time, taking the step. And yeah, there's been challenges, but I love where I'm at now, the expansion that's happened.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Well, hopefully we'll see you back at one of them, eh? We're going to be in Bali at the end of April, 2025. We got Australia in June and Split in Croatia in November, early November, 2025.
Sounds good.
Come and join us if someone's listening. And Chris, thank you so much for coming on and sharing, mate. I know it's a big deal, but it's truly appreciated, man. And
cheers. Did you have two questions, Guy, or was it just one?
That was the 1.5. There was all in there, but that's sweet, mate. That's sweet. I'll wrap it up. But I just want to say, mate, it's an honor calling you a friend, and I love your enthusiasm for life and the way you tackle things and take things on head on and just fully embrace everything. And it's contagious. It rubs off, and it's always a joy.
Thanks, legend.
Hanging around. Thanks, buddy. Much love, mate. Bye-bye.